Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar and our conversation around all things cybersecurity, how to keep your business safe and secure in today's digital world. Just a reminder, if you have any questions or comments, drop them in the chat in the Q&A on the right-hand section there. I'll be monitoring those and we can answer those questions. We want this to be interactive. So if you have any, no matter how big or small, throw them in there. We'll get them answered. Today's topic is interesting. I'm certainly not the expert in cybersecurity. That is not my forte. So we brought in someone who is. We brought in Corey White, founder and CEO at Cybetar. It is a company whose primary purpose is to understand these types of threats and help your business stay safe and secure. So Corey is definitely an expert. He is an industry veteran. He's been in it for a shocking 28 years. We were talking about this before and like, no way you do not look anywhere near that age, but he is an expert, guys. He knows his stuff. So that's why we brought him on today. And we are super excited to get going and get you some of the knowledge, pull that out of his head, get it to you guys. So Corey, welcome. Thanks for coming on today.
Well, Dow, thanks for having me. It's such an honor. I look forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we'll get things kicked right off. We'll get things going and talking all things cybersecurity. So we got hacked, right? It's a common phrase that people hear all the time now, whether it's a corporation got hacked or a social media account or everything in between. So in today's digital world, so many possibilities for this to happen. And today we're really going to kind of tailor it to our audience and how it may impact their medical practice, their dental office, their optometry office, small business, whatever it may be. So what is your initial take on it all? You've been in this for a while. You've seen a lot of things. What are some of the things you've seen people experience, and where do things start to go wrong for most people?
Yeah, let's go back to the statement of we got hacked, because for me, it's interesting. When I first started, most people didn't know what cybersecurity was. Say 10, 15 years ago, like cybersecurity, I had no idea. Now, when I say I do cybersecurity, I get, oh my God, that is so cool. People actually know what it is. So what has happened is the evolution of I got hacked. It used to be a big company thing, and only financial institutions that had a lot of money got hacked. Now everybody is a target. Here's why, and here's what's changed. So if you have access to any money at all, then you are a target. So think of it like this business email compromise. What that is when we get that email says, hey, I just switched banks. Can you transfer the money here? Or they're trying to trick you into sending money somewhere where you shouldn't send it. So that happens all the time. So even I get them, and we have filters and everything. I get very few of them, but every once in a while they come through. And then the other one is ransomware attacks. So ransomware attacks, these are ways that companies can get compromised, and once they encrypt all your data, say all your medical records, then you can't proceed and take care of any patients if your systems are encrypted. So again, they're forcing you to pay. So hacking is for profit now. And so what I want to make sure the audience understands is that everyone is a target. And I'll talk a little bit more about ransomware in a minute, but I want them to get that point. Everyone is a target now. It's not just financial institutions. Smaller companies are huge targets.
Right. Yeah. And that was something I was going to ask, people, if you own a dental practice or any small business, is this something that you actually need to be aware of, or is it something that people can just, we're probably fine. Something probably won't happen to us, so we don't need to worry about it.
Well, think about it like this. And there's so many articles written about this. If you are a small to medium-sized business, which is a dental practice, then you're thinking nobody's going to hack me. Nobody's going to attack me. So the hackers are like, okay, they're the perfect target to attack, because at the end of the day, you don't have proper defenses. Why would they go try to hack into some big bank that has a whole security team when I can hack into you and you have almost nothing? And if you do have something, it's probably the cheapest product out there that's not able to stop a ransomware attack. So that's an easy target. If I can trick, 10 companies into paying a ransom of, let's make it up 50,000 a piece, that's pretty good income. And I don't have to work hard to do this. These are toolkits and this automatic process for these hackers. So that's an easy way to get that money.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like, someone planning a big old bank heist, right? It'll take a lot more work for them to do one of these massive, massive bank robberies as opposed to, doing 5 small ones really easy for them. So that makes sense.
Yep.
What do you think are some of like the most common types of cyber attacks? You mentioned some ransomware and a couple of things. What are some of the most common ones that would face some of these smaller businesses?
Yeah, let's break down so it really is ransomware and business email compromise, but let's break those down. So when people think ransomware, they think, oh, I got some malware onto my system. But that's not
Mhm.
the case. It originally started as just you click on something, then your system got encrypted. Well, that's not the case. What they're doing now is that when they hack into your username and password, and let's just be clear, the hackers have your password. They have my password. They have everybody's password. So think of it like that. So if they already have your password and they can easily get your username, then it's going to be pretty simple to compromise your systems. Now, when I say they have your password, if you look at some of these password managers, they'll tell you which ones and your password's been compromised. So whenever there's a breach and they steal all the passwords from very large companies that we all use, like LinkedIn and had a big breach of Target, etc., they're stealing all those passwords. And so if you use the same passwords in multiple places or something
Mhm.
similar, then your password's going to be compromised. Well, another way to look at it is back, 15, 20 years ago, we used to have these password crackers and make your password was long and complicated. It would take like 10 years to go crack your password. Guess what's happened to computing power over the last 10, 15 years? Okay. So instead of it taking 10 years, it takes like a few minutes, if that, and to
Wow.
crack your password. So passwords are easily crackable. So you have to have multi-factor or two-factor authentication pretty much on everything. And if someone gets into your passwords to get onto your systems, they're gonna literally pillage around your dental office network. Then they're gonna find, oh, here's the patient data. Okay, all right. Well, here's where they make transfers and pay bills or who they're spending money with, and then they can go and intercept those communications and trick you to paying someone else, which is them, the hacker, or they can figure out
Yeah.
these are the critical files and let's encrypt these, and then they'll disable your backup. So it is a hack that is a hack for profit. It's not just you clicked on something wrong and got encrypted. It is way more complicated than that.
Interesting. Yeah, and when everybody, when he says two-factor authentication, if you don't know what that is, it's essentially saying you have to have there's a backup when you try to log into something and it pings another channel. So it either sends you a text or an email, something to double check that you are actually you. So making sure that you have more layers in there for that security.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting because it is so it seems like, oh, I have a great password, but I mean, the fact of the matter is most people use similar or same passwords for everything. And usually they're ones that they've used for years and years and years. And it's so simple for people to crack that and get that. It's so
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Very interesting. Okay. So what do you think are some of the most common mistakes then that some of these small businesses might make that make them more susceptible, that make it easier for people to either want to target them or just easier to, kind of crack into their system?
Yeah, I mean, it's a few things. Number one, they'll think it's not going to happen to me, right? That now people are starting to warm up to realize, yeah, it will happen to you. And here's an analogy that I use, just a non-technical one. But think about your home, okay? If you're on your street, if your house, the garage door is up, that the windows are open, and the side gate is cracked when the bad person is driving down the street looking at casing the houses and yours looks like that and everybody else is buttoned up, guess what they're going to go for? They're going for your house that night to go try to break into. It's a low-hanging fruit type of scenario. Now let's equate that to cybersecurity. Now in cybersecurity, if you don't have two-factor or multi-factor authentication, okay, if you haven't patched your systems, if you don't have antivirus that is capable of blocking ransomware malware, you went out and bought the cheapest one, on the shelf, and it doesn't have the capability to do it to block ransomware, then you're going to be a target for that attack. Period. Because you're low hanging fruit. And I equate another quick analogy. Let's think about the maturity of the cybersecurity industry. We just simply aren't that mature yet. And so if you think about the auto industry, what I like about it in all my years of living, I imagine in the 70s when I was being brought home from the hospital, my mom wasn't wearing a seatbelt because it wasn't even law until like 84 or so, right? So she wasn't wearing
Yeah.
a seatbelt. I was not in a car seat. Okay. So think about the safety. That car did not have an airbag, didn't have anti-lock brakes, didn't have the third
Right.
brake light. Those are all preventative controls that have been put into vehicles. Now you think about how mature that has gotten over the last 40, 50 years, and the car safety has really evolved. Well, cybersecurity isn't there yet. Now we know what controls need to be in place, but they're not laws to say that mandate they have to be in place. So we
Right.
have to do the diligence ourselves and make sure we're protecting ourselves, and using the right solutions and products to secure our companies.
Mm. Yeah, the advancement has just been in everything, of course, but especially in the digital era that we're in now, and how progressively faster and faster things seem to be changing. Most recently, all the stuff with AI and just so many things. For our listeners, we're going to do a separate webinar all about AI and how it can help streamline things on the good side of the end of things as well at a different time. But I kind of want to circle back now to we were mentioned passwords a little bit, keeping those safe and secure, because it is so easy for hackers to get a hold of them, to crack them, whatever it is, to get through that layer of stuff. What's the best way for people to keep these types of things safe and secure, to keep them kind of diversified and more manageable that way?
Yeah, a few things for me. Every application I use, I go and make sure that there's some type of multi-factor, two-factor authentication, and I enable it for everything. So think about your banks, any kind of financial institution you're logging into. Please make sure you're not just using a username and password. There's a lot of risk in that. But in just regular apps and online apps I use, I make sure I enable it on everything. Now, for us and our customers at Cybertar, we use a multi-factor authentication product like Okta or Duo, and it allows you to, as a password manager, it saves all of it, and it sends something to your phone to authenticate every single time you log in. Now, why is that important? Because the hackers are pretty smart and sophisticated. Back in the fall, there was a Uber hack that happened, and they were using multi-factor with an app, with solid way to do it. But what happens is the hackers will try to text you or message you, "Hey, go ahead and authenticate and approve this. We're the IT department for whatever company," and then force them to say, "Oh, okay, approved." Well, the problem with that is that you have to have another layer. And so in our company, for our customers, they have another layer, and it's just a number on your screen. You're like, "Oh, I'm looking at the screen, looking at the number." But if somebody's hacked into your phone, into your system, then they wouldn't see that number. Only you see it because it's live on your screen. So
Yeah.
that's the layers that you have to have nowadays. But it's equivalent to saying when you leave home, you close and lock your door, and if you have an alarm
Yeah.
system, you turn the alarm on every single time. That's not that big of a hassle. People say, "Oh, God, do this extra factor." Well, oh, I gotta go lock my door when I leave home, right? Yeah, it's just the same thing. You just have one extra step. Gotta make sure my doors are locked in my house, to be safe. Same thing with cybersecurity.
Yeah. Yeah. When you put it that way, it seems so silly that, we get bothered by 5 extra seconds of something that we have to do when we're
Yeah.
logging into something. Okay. So two interesting questions I just thought of. One, it comes with storing your passwords. A lot of people put their passwords somewhere so that they can remember them.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of people write them down on a physical piece of paper, and a lot of people will put them just on a digital document like a Google Doc or something like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay. Let me tell you. So I used to be a penetration tester, and we do physical penetration testing and also obviously digital. But in physical, so if we're in an office, and this is dating myself, going in someone's office, everybody's remote nowadays. But physical, at the end of the day, we would go and walk around and look under keyboards and look under the mouse pad, see if the passwords are there, and we would find that just that simple, right? And people today still do that, believe it or not. So no, please do not write it down. And if you do and you have to write it down, put it into like a safe or something. Do not just yeah put it on a post it under your. I've seen them posted on the computer sometimes, but yeah, please don't do that.
Right on the side there.
Yeah, exactly. Here are my passwords. Now, the other one is once we would get onto systems digitally by hacking in, the first thing we would do is just do a search on the whole operating system for the word password. And then,
Mm.
sometimes we find that file called passwords. And then we go and, okay, here's the passwords to everything. And you can get onto multiple systems and do that search really quickly and find password. So if you write it down and put it into some kind of a file or whatever, don't do that either. That's very bad. That's what the hackers are looking for. And then there are really good password managers out there. So you want to use a password manager, and it's a few that you can get. But you also want to have multi-factor with that password manager if you do that as well. So you got to have the layers of protection to protect yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Um, let's go kind of the next step down then. So say, someone's taking all these precautions and they do the best they can, but they eventually get breached somehow. Some kind of breach, hack, cyber attack, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
What are the first steps that someone should take? What they're going to do is freak out initially, but what are the first steps they should take to start to help and mitigate that, to do as little damage as possible?
Yeah, let's go through a real world scenario. I'll anonymize the company, but this is about 4 or 5 years ago. I got a call from a company that they were a small business, and they said they had ransomware and they were encrypted, and it was the ransom was $50,000. And I said, huh. I'll bet that they already know that this company has $50,000. That's how they set the ransom at $50,000. Okay.
Interesting.
So we got in and they were like, hey, can you just get our systems back and help? So number one, don't ever try to negotiate with a hacker unless you've done it before. There literally are companies out there that negotiate with hackers to try to get it down from 50 to maybe 25 or whatever. And you also want to verify, because what they're going to do is they're going to steal your data, and they're going to say, hey, here's your data. Unless you pay us this $50,000, we're going to put all this on the internet and tell all your customers. So just be aware of that. And so you want to verify they actually do have your data, verify they do have access. And then once you do that, then you negotiate. Now you can negotiate and try to get it down. Sometimes they'll bend, and so you won't have to pay as much. So we negotiated. We ultimately had to pay the full 50. They would not bend in this particular case. And that gave me more information that they knew that this company had $50,000.
Yeah.
So I told them, I was like, we're going to do forensics on your system to verify that this wasn't just someone just clicked on something and got it encrypted. It actually, they got in, they looked at your financials, and they could tell how much money you had. So literally, they got in, we did forensics and saw this. But they got in a few weeks prior, weak passwords, believe it or not. Yep, weak passwords got into their systems, and you can see them logging into systems, disabling backups. You can see everything they did, and when they looked at their financial information, they could see how much money they had. That's how they set the ransom. So that's what a typical scenario looks like. It's very informed by the hackers. They aren't just randomly hacking in; they're making sure they get paid. Okay, because they know how much money you have. I've seen cases where they actually looked and saw how much your insurance policy was. Like, okay, well, you're covered up to $500,000. We're going to set that ransom up to $500,000. They can see
Jeez.
that their cyber insurance policy. So those are the things that you typically have to look out for. Now, what you don't want is two different scenarios, right? If you think you're going to try to prosecute, if it's some kind of internal hack, then you don't want to, stomp on the evidence. You want to bring in an experienced forensics investigator. Now, if you know you're just been hacked by a hacker and there's probably someone out of the country, you're probably not going to be able to do anything, but you do want to call the FBI. The FBI is able to help you investigate. They may have some insight, and you also want to have an incident response company to come in and do forensics and help walk you through it. So those are the two steps you want to take immediately before you start doing anything. Well, after you freak out, go ahead and take your time to freak out. You want to do that, then make those two calls.
Sure. And is that, those forensics and everything you mentioned, is that something that your company, that Cyavatar, does?
Yeah, absolutely. We do. And I think it's an important point I want people to understand. 98% of the attacks out there, they're that low hanging fruit type of attacks. So if you have multi-factor on everything, if you have a continuous, scanning and patching regimen where you're fixing, like if your computer says, hey, time for an update, but you never update it, If you actually read those updates, they say multiple security vulnerabilities have been fixed. On average, every single day, about 68 new security vulnerabilities come out every day. So if you're not continually patching and updating your system, then you're just a sitting duck for it. So we make sure our customers are all patched and updated on a regular basis. And then lastly, we use enterprise grade antivirus that uses AI that blocks the execution of ransomware, which I think is important. If you go out and think about it in your house, right? If you go and get the cheapest little door lock, maybe you get like a little latch and you put that on your front door, okay, you're probably going to get broken into because it's not going to
Yeah.
secure your house. So you want to have the best of breed to secure you. So that's how you stop it. So it can be stopped. It's just you have to have the proper controls in place.
Got it. Okay, really good to know. You did mention, sometimes hackers will look at insurance policies and what those limits go up to, and ask for that amount. So, what role does insurance play in protecting, these businesses or practices against some of these things? Is that something they should consider? Is that something that you should and need to have? How does insurance come into play?
Yeah, great question. I'm gonna take us back about 10 years or so. So 10 years when cyber insurance was really coming out and getting really popular, then companies were like, "Oh, I'll sign up and get insurance." They'll send you a little questionnaire from the underwriter. You're like, "Yeah, we do all these things. Check, check, check," and you get your insurance. Well, that was going great until I've worked with closely with a few insurance companies, and they were having claim rates of 90 to 100% over time. Eventually, everybody was filing a claim, so that's not great for the insurance company.
Right.
So what they started doing was, getting a little bit more stringent, making sure you have the multi-factor or two-factor authentication, making sure you have some kind of a endpoint protection antivirus, solution that can block ransomware. Make sure you're patching and doing some of these best practices, and that's been added to the underwriting process. Well, that helped a little bit because the person that they were sending the questions to didn't really know how to answer them, especially when they're a small and medium-sized business. So
Yeah.
they actually started increasing policies and counseling renewals. You try to renew, and if you didn't couldn't prove you have proper controls in place, you wouldn't get insurance policy. Or if you had
Hmm.
an incident, because that's one of the questions: have you ever had an incident before? And if you have, it's going to be pretty hard for you to get an insurance policy for cybersecurity insurance. So what is happening is, going back to the car analogy, there weren't a lot of preventive controls being forced to be in place. Now they're actually requiring these preventive controls to be in place for you to get cyber insurance. And so that's one of the pieces that we do for our customers. We put the preventive controls in place, and then we get them all insurance. Every one of them has it because we've done it the right way. So the thing about the car with the seat belts, the car seats, the airbags, the anti-lock brakes all come with it now. So you can get insurance. But I guarantee if I bought a new car and took it to my insurance company, they looked at me like, "Well, you don't have any seat belts, you don't have airbags." I wouldn't get insurance. So that's where things are going with cyber.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's not a chance with auto insurance, right? If there were
Yeah,
those things, are like, no, absolutely not. We're making ourselves too liable here.
yeah, exactly.
Um, okay, that's a good way to put it. I like that. Now, thinking, if someone's on here, if someone's watching this, whether it's a practice owner, a dentist, an office administrator, it's great for them to hear all these things, but there's a lot of other people, part of the business and part of the practice, that may not hear this and know this. What's the best way for people to help their people be thoughtful about cybersecurity, up to date, to be knowledgeable and educated about these types of things?
Security awareness training. You have to have it, even for a small office, because what you got to realize is that even in our business we see this all the time. You get a new hire in, and it's announced on LinkedIn or social media somewhere. Within hours sometimes of that announcement, they're getting a text message from me, the CEO of the company. I need you to go get me some Target gift cards and bring those to me right away. Like, I have people, I have an assistant, I have people that if I actually needed Target gift cards or whatever, they would go and do it. I would not ask a new hire on day one to go and do it. But that's automatic. They've got it to where they're automatically monitoring companies to see who has just gotten a new job, who has just started. They're looking for a profile of folks that maybe not cybersecurity savvy, and then they target them. And so if I can go get you to go and get me $1,000 in gift cards, and think about it, if I send out in a day, if I send out 10 messages and I'm trying to get that done and I get one or two, I just make $2,000. in a day,
Yeah. Yep.
off of gift cards, and so you can't get your money back from that. It's just done.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. If
so
someone, everybody, if someone over a digital channel is asking you to buy them a gift card, double check with the real person first to make sure, because it 99% of the time probably is not them. Double check that.
yes, please.
And that's also a good reminder too. Everybody thinks, of physical security. That's been around forever, right? Like you mentioned with the house locking the door, and similar with these offices. A lot of these are offices where people need to be in the practice. It's a physical service type of thing. So, you have locks, you have maybe security, you have a lot of these physical protections in place, but a hacker is not going to just, if they come in a physical route, it's not going to be someone where they stroll in and you're like, ha, that's a hacker.
Yeah.
I know. I know you. No, it's going to be something you probably don't recognize. And even more so on the digital side.
Hmm.
You will not see it coming, probably ever, until it happens. And if you don't have these things in place, you're going to have that freak out moment. You're going to be in a little bit of trouble and have to do some damage control. So a lot of these things are really, really informative, really interesting, and make sure that you keep these top of mind. Implement some type of security awareness training, like Corey mentioned. You do trainings for all kinds of things, whether it's for procedural stuff or administrative side stuff. Incorporate this in the near future into some of your training plans and have some time to go over and dedicate to this. It'd be important for everyone in your business. Okay, we're getting close to out of time, but I have one or two more questions that I want to go over real quick. So what's the best way? We talk about these things today. This is really good upfront information and things that they need to know right now. Down the road, we're not going to have these all the time. Down the road, what's the best way for people listening to stay on top of new threats, new potential vulnerabilities, new knowledge, and things that they need to be aware of, as things are continually evolving? You mentioned 68 new threats every day. How is the best way for people to stay informed about things down the road?
Yeah, it's a few things you can do. I've looked at it from a different angles. I mean, you could try to say we're going to educate everybody with security awareness training and keep them up to date, but technology is moving too fast for that. It just won't work. So one of the approaches that we took here at Savitar is let's secure our customers, or at least educate them, just by default, and add that into a freemium offering. So literally, companies can go to the website and sign up for free. We'll do the external scans on a regular basis, and they'll have access to regular updates on best practices. Now, there are a bunch of websites out there that will give you security tips, but I think the security awareness training on a monthly basis, going through those courses, and then on top of that, just staying on top of cybersecurity is important. And the way you have to think about it is a continuous process. Historically, we've thought about cybersecurity from the perspective of, okay, I'm gonna go and do my monthly scans or yearly penetration tests, which I used to do all the time. Well, if you do a penetration test once a year, okay, then think about 68 new vulnerabilities a day. Your environment's changing all the time, cloud environment, everything else. It is absolutely useless. So you have to think about cybersecurity as a continuous thing, equivalent to closing, locking the door every single day. So you have to be diligent and be trained up on what to look for and have a good cybersecurity partner.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to open it up before we end here. If anybody listening, if you have any questions, whether you think it's a stupid question, a small question, a big question, throw it in the chat here. We'd love to, you've got an expert here in Corey if you want him to answer anything that you're wondering about. So we'll leave a little bit of time for that. We'll see if anything comes in, but it's been awesome to have you on, Corey. It's not my area of expertise either. And so it's been really informative for me. And I'm already thinking, I'm like, man, there's a few things I should probably go change and do. So it is very informative for a personal perspective. So everybody listening, do this for your personal stuff, do it for your business stuff, and keep your sanity and knowing that you're safe, and not have to have that freak out moment that we mentioned. Okay, Brittany, does your company offer CE credits for cyber training? Corey, that was a great question.
Yeah, I'm sure you could get that through our security awareness training offering, and use those for the credits. So yes.
Great. Yeah, there you go, Brittany. Yeah, I mentioned it in the chat above. So the company is Cyvitar. Yeah, I mentioned it there. Just cyvitar.com. Correct, Corey?
AI. Yeah.
.ai. Okay, perfect. So Cybertar.ai. I'm going to put that in here just so it's there. Cybertar.ai. You can go there and check out everything, everything that Corey's been doing for the last 30 years. It's amazing. They do incredible stuff. Definitely check them out. And from our perspective, Weave is a communication platform. We help small businesses and offices communicate with their patients, payments, emails, texts, all this kind of stuff. And we want you to be secure, because if someone hacks you, then you're putting your patient data at risk, and you've got all these communication channels and things that they can take and potentially do stuff with. So we want you to be secure and safe as well. Keep your patient data secure. You all know that that is really important. You have to do that. So from our perspective as well, do this. It'll help you out. If there's any other questions, throw them in the chat right now. Otherwise, we are almost out of time. We'll see if anything comes in. Okay. Thank you so much, Corey. Thanks for coming on, taking some of your time out of your day and helping everyone here, and myself included, understand more about this.
Okay. Well, thanks, Dow. Appreciate you.
Okay. All right. We'll see you all next time. Thanks.